Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
He said he gon' huff and puff and blow my mind up. You meet the island girl, she might dirty wine up.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. My guest today is a good friend of mine, a new friend of mine, Gordon Rogers. He started working with cars at 6 years old with his father as his mentor. He builds high-end and everything in between vehicles and modifications to get the older vehicles on the road and working better than they ever have. He's a stickler to detail and works with vehicles when he works with vehicles and his clients to make their cars look amazing. Gord, welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Hello, hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited having you, and we've talked before offline, and for the audience who probably doesn't know, you may know, I'm not really a car guy. I never really talk about cars. I don't do any tinkering myself. That's awesome that your dad was a mentor and got into this. My dad had a different skill set, so I never really learned about cars. So I'm really excited to have this conversation with you, and it's kind of timely as well because I hate to say if I've been in 2 car accidents in the last 4 months after having 32 years of never been in a car accident. So I'd love to get your perspective. So yeah, it's going to be super awesome to have this conversation about a topic that I know nothing about. So I'd love to start off with, I know we kind of alluded to it in the bio of your dad was your mentor, but how did you really get into this line of work, car restoration, and why are you so passionate about it?
I think when I was a kid, from the earliest I can remember, I was always just fascinated with mechanical things. My grandfather gave me a dryer when I was quite young, maybe 5 or 6, and I took it all apart with his toolbox in an afternoon. And when he came back, he said, that I had a gift for being able to take things apart. And then he asked me to put it back together. And the funny thing is I couldn't do it. And I had a little cry back, I guess. I don't remember all this, but I've been told. And but I think I was kind of born with this little gift, this quest for knowledge, this quest for I call it mechanicalness or isometric mechanicalness. And it also transfers into electronics. But my roots are mechanicalness. And then my dad brought home this old truck and I got into that. But I think I've always had that in the back of my mind. I was in drafting in high school, and then I switched into automotives because I just had this want to be involved in that. And I was lucky. When I went to trade school, the carburetors are just leaving, which is a fuel delivery device, and in fuel injection was coming in, which is an electronically controlled fuel delivery. So I know both of these systems. So it's actually served me in this older vehicle realm that I've chosen to spend my time. I think that everybody has a family member that has an old car somewhere in a garage that's got dust all over it and it hasn't been on the road. And I think, part of my being is to get those things on the road but to create memories, to take these old vehicles that your grandfather owned or your uncle or your mom, take them and turn them into something that you can use and create memories with your children. Those are the kind of things I get to work on.
I love that. I love that aspect of it, of that legacy almost. That's not a word you use, but almost that legacy and that history and those memories. I also love the fact that you found that not only that innate skill, but also that passion. We're able to actually go through with it. I mean, how many people, maybe more so nowadays than maybe in the past, get I don't want to say forced, but they get directed in a different direction that actually doesn't match up with their true passions or their true interests, and then they have to wait 40 years and then they come back to it later on in life. So I love the fact that you're able to find that so early on and then pursue it and become your career. Now, Gord, I've often heard you talk about the importance of maintenance of machines and cars in this particular case, and how that relates to like our body and mind. Can you explain that a little bit more for the audience?
Yeah, I believe that we can all have all of our bodies have a resonance or a frequency, and there's a balance that we can create within our body. And I think that also applies to all the machines. I mean, a machine can run unattended for a whole long time, but eventually it needs maintenance. So, let's say a friend of mine, she's a nutritionist, and what she says is you can decide to make time for your illness, or you can be proactive about your health. You can never be sick if you just maintain your body, keep your balance. And I think all these vehicles, even the new ones, full electric Tesla, still the brakes need to stop that battery from moving back and forth, and the tires wear out too. And there's bearings running. There's still machinery at work. So even all these new vehicles still need maintenance and care. And with humans, hey, we want to extend our good years as long as possible. Not extend our life just willy-nilly, but have usable years that we can, as if we maintain ourselves. And the same thing can be for a vehicle. Like besides having a car accident and having the vehicle not usable, if you can keep a vehicle for 20 years, I mean, I think that's economical and sustainable than buying another one every 5 years or whatever mainstream wealth focused people want you to do, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things there. So I'll address the last thing first, is like, yeah, absolutely. That's kind of our philosophy in our family. Our one vehicle, what are we going on 14 years now? And then the earlier accident I had just late last year was about 13, 14 years as well. And we would have kept going until it like was no more. But unfortunately that accident just it ended up being a write-off. So yeah. And I love the parallel. Secondly, I love the parallel with our bodies. And, arguably, I would argue, and I think we're in the same wavelength here, and same with your friend, that, our bodies do need even more maintenance than probably a machine. I would argue we need our maintenance daily, whereas the machine, obviously very frequently, but maybe not as frequent as ourselves. So I love that comparison you made. So thank you for sharing that. Gordon, I know the hot topic that like everyone who's watching this is going to be asking is, and kind of, yeah, the hot topic is like, do honest mechanics exist, or do they still exist? I'm sure in generations ago I'm sure they did, but do they still exist now? Or what's your take? Let's just open up this inquiry of dialogue here.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good question. I think that yes, there are honest mechanics out there. I think that it's a little bit of the most trusted mechanics have the best communication with their clients. So my focus is the R3 in my business just means relate, repair, restore. The relate is I want to be able to relate to what you feel and where you're at with your experience with mechanical, with your car itself, and where you want to take the vehicle. Like, so if it's an oil change, then it's pretty easy for a mechanic to figure out. We change the oil, we look it over, make sure it's safe, and we recommend anything that's either a code red or something in the future. We just mention it, we give you an estimate, and then you decide from there what you do. So the ball's always in your court. But I could see, like, I've heard from some clients that I've gained by other mechanics not telling them the truth, that, yeah, it's scary out there. You can drop a vehicle off and have a huge bill at the end and not even have approved it. And I have several people that I work with that are trusted mechanics. When there's an electronic issue with a brand new vehicle that I can't sort out because of some kind of scanner or scan tool requirement, I have a fella that will come and do that. When I need to have something painted, well, I have somebody that's an expert that is a trusted body person that helps me with that. So I only work with those that are trustworthy. But I mean, there's also the other side of the coin is if I'm looking for something wrong, I will probably find it. And when we do find something that happens, because we are human, it's how we deal with it that can often, make the difference. Is if I make a mistake with your car, or one of my people does, we own up to it, we resolve it, we do whatever it takes so that you're happy and you can trust your vehicle again. Whether or not you're coming back to us, that we don't worry about that. We just want to make sure that if we made a mistake, we own up to it, we fix it, we cover all the costs, we bring your vehicle back to what it was before we made the mistake. And that's how we operate. And yeah, I think there still are mechanics out there that are exactly that. And I hope that number is growing.
Yeah, I hope so too. Now, you brought up two things I want to share. So one, I won't get into details, but we've actually, in the past, we actually left a place because we felt like the communication was not deceiving or anything like that, just not there, was not expected. So we just left that location and went somewhere else. So just, don't be afraid to do that with anything. I'll just say that, just generally, like, if you're not communicating with your doctor, you should change doctors, and your dentist, whatever. Like I think that generally, Gord made a good point about just communication. Now, Gord, obviously you work, independently now in your own business, but I think you worked in a shop or somebody else's business, I should say, before. So I would love to get your perspective on this, and you may or may not know, but what about like maybe some bigger locations, bigger shops, they've got 30 employees on, maybe it's a dealership, maybe it's not, whatever, where there's maybe that pressure to like upsell, to like meet, I don't want to say a quota per se, but, where those things that are maybe yellows, not criticals, but those yellows, to like push them a little bit forward just for revenue recognition. Like, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that? Or sometimes I feel like, as the consumer who doesn't know, and again, I'm not a car guy. Sometimes I feel like that is that happening? I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
Sometimes like I've been in the dealership world as a technician, and then I transitioned out of the dealership world and then started to manage other people's shops from there. And they ended up nicknaming me the cleaner. So I'd come in and I'd clean up the whole shop, paint the walls, replace tools, create an atmosphere for the mechanics where they felt respected. I'd buy new coveralls. I would make sure that we had a Friday morning meeting, and every 3 months take them out for a whole day doing something that's fun. So, like, my experience is limited to what in the dealership world, how things would be sold. But I used to make recommendations, and we had yellow light, red light or green light on our form. And if it was a yellow or a red, then the service advisor, the person that communicated with the customer, they would communicate that to the customer. But I found that the more people that are involved in the process, sometimes the message can get misconstrued, and then the communication doesn't get to the customer. So once I left the dealership world, I like to be in control of the communication, and I would involve the technician as well. And that seemed to build trust when a technician is on the phone with you versus some dude that's the service advisor that's maybe not mechanical. There's that communication barrier, but bringing the technician right to the customer, some shop owners thought that was a waste of money, that the technician is wasting his mechanical time to be talking to a customer, but I found that often made things better. That made it easier for the customer to make a decision and created trust with the technician. So, if Deepak, if you brought your car into our shop and you told me that you wanted John to work on it from now on, that's what we would do, is John would be your tech from now on. And you would create a relationship with John and be able to trust him, right? I do believe dealerships have a cookie cutter idea of what you should be doing, and they don't really, or they're not able to articulate it, or they don't have enough time. There's a compression of one person is doing maybe 4 people's jobs at the dealership right now and can't actually focus on your car enough. I'm not sure, but I mean, my transition away from the dealership was a positive one. I think I learned how they work. I learned that it's a machine that has to be fed. And I learned that other shops, like up to 10 bays I've managed, also need to have this throughput process.
Right.
And people can be overworked, including myself in the process. Retail automotive repair is a really tough place to be for a manager, an owner, a service advisor. A technician usually is able to make a living there quite comfortably if they do good repairs and just do what they're supposed to do. And but this disconnect
is that because the margins are actually pretty thin from what the market will bear?
Yeah, I believe so. I think that there's always somebody out there that's willing to change your tires for $15 a tire or something like that. And maybe they don't balance them well, or they don't really clean the wheel very well. Like the job's done and the tires are on, but it's the details and the cleaning and the balancing and then looking at the tires that takes a little bit extra time. So it is a tough place to be able to explain that this is what we're doing. We're doing a little extra than the next person.
Right.
And for us to just follow suit and not inspect and look at things could put a customer into a space where they blow a tire and hit the ditch. Let's say if we're looking at a tire replacement. So yeah, it depends on, like, even what side of the city you go to get things done. Often the labor rates can fluctuate. And it is tough place.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Gordon, like, you make a good point. Like, I even if I just think of something automotive related, like gas, doesn't matter where you live in the world, right? Certainly a major city in North America. If gas rate, they're within reason, they're within spitting distance of each other, but it might be 3 or 4 cents higher in an affluent neighborhood versus not. And sometimes it's the reverse. You're like, that doesn't make sense. How come, like, there always seem to be lower than where I live, and then next, so I know I understand. Nobody start yelling and send me letters. I understand there's a lot of factors that go into, like, pricing gas at the local pump. But it's I think to Gord's point, to your point, Gord, is like what the market will bear sometimes, like you said, different side of the city, different cities, different towns, competition, et cetera, all plays a role for sure. And I just want to go back to something you said earlier as well. I have, unfortunately, it's not the norm. It's been the exception, but there has been times in the past where maybe the repair suggested was a little bit more in depth, and they got the service advisor got the technician on the phone and explained to me. And I always thought that was a lot better. So I don't know, that should just be, maybe that's just me. I think that should be standard practice. Besides, or maybe just regular oil change, tire swap, whatever, it should be like anything of any sort of repair of, whatever that cutoff is, 300-400. It doesn't take much to get into the thousands for doing a repair, right?
Yeah.
It should include the technician. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up.
Like in what I do now with mostly working on these older cars is I'll bring the car in and we'll make an assessment of it, and we'll provide you with a list of everything that it would take to make the mechanical 100%, the electronics, the stereo, the air conditioning, the lights, all the stuff that requires power, what it would be to restore that. And then also the body, the chrome, the exterior, the tires, the wheels. We can break it down into little pieces and really get down to what it would cost to bring your vehicle right back up to 100%. Because, you buy a brand new vehicle, 2024 vehicle, well, by the time you get to 2027, 2028, it's not 100% anymore. Maybe it's 70% or it's 80% or 60%, depending on the mileage you have on it. And whenever you maintain that car, you're allowed to put more mileage on the car the more you maintain it. Preferred without a breakdown. And sometimes you get down to 20-30% and you can't drive the car anymore. And you either take it and crush it and get a brand new car. But some people are fixing the ones they have, the older cars, the 14, 20-year-old cars, as well as the 60, 70-year-old cars. So I believe as prices go up, as things are more difficult to manufacture or get a hold of, I think you'll see more of that we'll be running our older vehicles longer.
Yeah.
And,
That leads me to my, I love that answer, Gord. And it leads me to my next question. What is, maybe a two-parter, and you can answer whichever one part first, maybe it's the same answer. What's the oldest vehicle that you've ever restored or serviced? No, not serviced, restored to its past glory. And then maybe second part of the question is what's been the most not challenging, maybe the most fun project to work on?
Okay, yeah, I think a 1934 Ford Coupe, very much custom, with a big block Ford automatic with a quick change rear end and as many hot rod parts as you can put on, custom frame, custom suspension. That was probably the oldest one that I've worked on, where I've brought it from a pile of parts to a driving vehicle. I was never able to paint that one. The customer decided to put it aside and not paint it, but have it all done. Basically, I call that in mock-up, where you have a vehicle that's not, it's just in primer, but it does all the things, drives and runs. And I'd say probably the funnest project, I think, of all time is we took an 1956 International S110 truck, which was originally a milk truck in Saskatchewan. So it would have been running around Saskatoon and Milford and in that area. It was delivering milk to rural areas. And the truck was pretty haggard. It was the box had rusted away from all the milk spillage that had corroded the metal, but the cab itself was usable. And we found a box from another truck, and we actually swapped that truck onto a modern 2011 Crown Victoria police car chassis. So we used the chassis. Police cars have giant brakes, all kinds of horsepower and coolers, giant gas tanks. They're designed to run for 2 days and nights without refueling. And
I did not know that. I learned something new. You always learn something new on the Deepak Saini show. That's awesome. I did not know that.
So they're the most robust hot rod chassis that you can find right now. They've all been decommissioned off the road. So, but some civilians are still in ownership of them. So this chassis is available. But anyway, we put this truck onto there and took it from $1,000 beater truck to be a $40,000 beautiful, I call it a patina ride. So we didn't paint it. We just polished up the rust and the paint that was on it. and we clear coated it. And my customer ended up selling it, for 40,000. But that was the most fun that we've had, because I was just getting started in my business. I had done 2 of these swaps before, but this was the most beautiful truck that you could imagine when it was complete, and
Awesome.
and highly drivable as well.
Awesome. Okay, now I have this open loop in my mind here, and maybe some of the audience does as well. So let me ask this. Okay, so the older police cars, there was a Crown Victoria that was, I'm going to assume, again, I don't know anything about cars, specifically designed to be a police car right from the factory, probably. And now
Correct.
they're out of commission. And yes, probably people have seen them around. I've seen civilians driving these around. You can tell they're old police cars. So now the question is, the newer vehicles that police organizations, RCMP, state troopers, whatever, wherever you are in the world, that they use, are they still modified to like run like that for 2 days without fueling up, or is like, as we've gotten technology and we've had evolution of vehicles, that performance piece has actually come down? Do you know that?
I would say that that formula that was created back in probably 92, 93 is where the Crown Victoria really took on this role as a police, fire, EMS kind of everything car. I think it's still I think it's still the same formula today. Like Dodge came up with a Dodge Charger police version that was, twice the horsepower than of the Crown Vic almost,
Oh,
and
okay.
it was very robust, and it's still in use to this day. There's something called a Ford Taurus that has a double turbocharged engine that's very, very quick and still is designed to run for a couple days, -30, +30. If there's an accident, the police always survive. Very safe, robust vehicle.
Right.
But the sad part for me as a resto mod guy is the Crown Victoria had a separate frame from the body, and that's the chassis that we would use, is the frame itself. So now these modern cars, the Charger, the Ford Taurus, that are in use today, they're all called a unibody construction, which means there is no frame that's separate.
Right.
So that's not really usable for what we need.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understood.
So yeah. So
No, thank you for
but the
answering
formula
that question.
stays, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good to know. Just curiosity, like, okay. So as we slowly come to winding down this episode here, I do like to ask all my guests, again, I'm all about health and everything. It's not a health specific podcast, obviously, but I do like to ask my guests, like, what is what does your morning routine look like, or what's a non-negotiable for your health?
Okay, yeah. So get up. I'm addicted to coffee, so I make a coffee, and then an hour walk every 2 days, a half an hour sauna, and then a stretching routine. Some of it's from my Cato teachings, but basically twisting and getting your wrists, your arms, your shoulders, your hips and your knees, everything stretched out, so that I'm ready to go into the shop, and I can go and I can lift things and work with things and move. Sometimes I'll be under a dash, let's say, and I'm 6'8". It's really difficult for me to do that. But without stretching, I think I would injure myself. But that's kind of my daily start is, and then food, of course. After all that, I still put in about 30 grams of protein in the morning, because of
Awesome.
my
Love that.
metabolism. That's how my metabolism works. And then that's my routine. So yeah, walk, sauna every 2 days, definitely a coffee, food, stretching. Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously Gord lives local to where I live here in the greater Calgary area in Alberta, Canada. A bunch of you who are watching this are, nowhere near here, which is totally fine. But if you do live nearby, Gord has a gift. If you want to like get a free assessment of where your vehicle's at, maybe what you could do to do the modifications or repairs, he's happy to offer that to the audience. We're going to have all of Gord's contact information in the show notes, how you can get a hold of him, find him on social media, etc. So definitely check him out if that's something that interests you. And if you live somewhere else, look for quality independent mechanics like Gord in your local area, and I'm sure they're all over the place. And maybe seek something out different than your typical dealer shop or big box store type of thing. So really appreciate you being on the show today, Gord. Any last words of wisdom you'd like to leave the audience with?
Yeah, well, obviously appreciate being here. To leave the audience with something positive. Pay attention to your vehicle. Look into that squeak or that rattle. And when you lift your hood, just make sure you got oil in it. Make sure you got washer fluid. And check your tires once a month. That's textbook keeping your vehicle going. And all I want you to do is drive on and be safe. Thank you.
I love that, Gord, and I'm going to piggyback on that and just parallel that to health. Ditto, everything for your health. Check your stuff, know your numbers, know what's going on with you, and I think it's a perfect parallel to high performance machine, which is your vehicle, and the high performance machine, which is yourself. So thank you for that, Gord. Again, thank you for being on the show. I'm going to throw it back to J23, who's going to guide us out with some music. Don't forget to check out today's show sponsor, and as well as free resources. We're going to have all of Gord's links, as well as there's some resources of my own, all in the show description. Again, thanks for listening to the Deepak Saini Show. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Until next time. This episode is brought to you by Optimizers. I love their product, Gluten Guardian. Now, I'm not celiac, but I am sensitive to gluten, and sometimes you just can't avoid it. You're out. Sometimes you just want to celebrate that birthday cake that your kids made, what have you. So I'll pop a couple of these pills just to help mitigate the inflammation and help break down the gluten that I may ingest sometimes. So Gluten Guardian also works with dairy as well. I take these occasionally, and click the link and you can save 10% off at least, if not more. Cheers.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company